Take a deep breath, please, and let's begin the lesson titled Just Allow It. When I first started in Science of Mind, I, of course, as many in this teaching, we learned spiritual mind treatment. And I'll talk more about that today in my lesson. And the releasing of the word at the end of the process called spiritual mind treatment are three words. Let it go. Let it go. And that works. That works. I like to play with words. I like to ask myself if that word still works and what it means to me now, or do I have a better word? Because I was also informed, and I believe, that we need to find our own words that allow, here's that word, that allow it to work for us. So my title today, Just Allow It, is not necessarily releasing, letting anything go about it, whatever I'm treating for, whatever I'm affirming for my life. But I allow all of it to be part of the process. And so we've had a lot of processes the last couple of years. We've just had our second annual anniversary of the campfire. And I don't know how many of you were privy to Rebuilding Paradise, the documentary. It's powerful. It is powerful. And those of us who have not, or were not part of the mass exodus during that day, it was pretty frightening. And there's a lot of healing that is ongoing and a lot of processing. And that's hard to let go. And so the allowing part of it allows the feelings to come up within all individuals. It allows the processing of it. It allows that embrace of all of it to find out how the individual feels about it all. And one of the ideas that came out of all of this is our ability to just deal with it, deal with all the emotions and all of the factors of experience of life. And just in general, we have this wonderful opportunity to process. So this morning, with that as a lead in, I would like to begin with a quote from the Sermon by the Sea. And it speaks to the process of allowing Spirit to move through us and help us and actually provide a greater view of what is possible through situations that can be quite devastating. Dr. Ernest Holmes presented Sermon by the Sea in 1959 at Asilomar, California. And so I begin with a quote from that talk. Quote, "Your human incarnation is the invitation to your spirituality. We are coming into divine consciousness," end quote. I'm going to say that again. Your human incarnation is the invitation to your spirituality. We are coming into divine consciousness. With the world around us appearing as scattered pieces and fragments of uncertainties, now is the perfect opportunity to remember we are first and foremost an individualized incarnation of the One God, and that the nature of the one God, referred to as our spiritual self, awaits our invitation for greater clarity, awareness, and gratitude. Now is the time to tap into that which runs deep within us, that which supports us through every level of our being. I believe we are called from within to examine our core values in these times especially, and to make a sincere and heartfelt demand upon the divine revealer that within us. And so I invite you this morning to do a 180 from the outer illusions and turn and focus inward for a bit of spiritual refreshment and tap into you. Tap into you. I invite you to close your eyes for just a moment and acknowledge the power of God's mind, and that your mind is the individualized potential of God's mind, activating through you, as you. Now, breathe this in. Breathe this in. And as you breathe out, release any resistance that might be appearing. Now you're ready to say yes, to accept those greater ideas that I call the possibilities. Just allow it to be and breathe. And you can open your eyes when you're ready. That simple acknowledgement is grand in its scope, for it allows us to be centered, calm, and clear, realizing that within each of us is the potential of this God self that each of us is. Our book of the month, An Appeal to the World, The Way to Peace in a Time of Division, by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. It contains numerous pearls of wisdom. And so this morning I would like to share a few of those. The first is, and I quote, "We must learn now that humanity is all one big happy family." I love that, end quote. And the second is on pages 7 and 8, first chapter, titled An Appeal by the Dalai Lama for Secular Ethics and Peace. Quote, "I believe that humans can get by without religion, but not without inner values, not without ethics. The difference between ethics and religion is like the difference between water and tea. Religion-based ethics and inner values are more like water. The tea that we drink is made mostly of water, but it contains other ingredients as well. Tea leaves, spices, perhaps a little sugar, and, at least in Tibet, a pinch of salt. And that makes it more substantial, more lasting, something we want to drink every day. Yet no matter how tea is prepared, its main ingredient is water. We can live without tea, but not without water. Likewise, we are born without religion, but not without the basic need for compassion, and not without the fundamental need for water. He goes on to say, I see with ever greater clarity that our spiritual well-being depends not on religion, but our innate human nature, our natural affinity for goodness, compassion, and caring for others. Regardless of whether or not we belong to a religion, we all have a fundamental and profoundly human wellspring of ethics within ourselves. We need to nurture that, end quote. Beloveds, now is a moment of great price. Are we ready to tap into our wellspring of goodness and love and compassion? And are we ready to give those out and into our humanity? If you are ready, say with me, I am. I am. And there's only one thing that we must do after we say, I am. You know what that is? Take a guess. Just allow it. Just allow it. Each of us create the conditions for our experiences through our consciousness, through our understanding of our thoughts, and ultimately their manifestation. Well, this manifestation is influenced by the nature of the energy we place within our intentions, be it joy, love, and yes, even angst and fears and worries. In other words, we reap what we sow. Our lives in consciousness are one continuous setup after another. We set up our lives in consciousness first. We layer our lives with our thoughts and emotions and our actions. I call this a spiritual continuum of manifestation. Now, negativity in mind creates negative conditions, and left unchecked, sets us up for that very life. Don't allow that to happen to you. It's time for a 180 reset. Maybe a cup of the Dalai Lama tea. Breathe, refresh, and live YOU. Beloved, to live a life that supports a greater humanity always begins within you. We have to be our own human, filled with the humanity of spirit, backed by love and genuine compassion. Just allow it. It is there. We live in an abundant universe of perfect law and order. My background today is a reminder of the balance of nature, its productivity. It's always in perfect time and place and space. Now, this perfect law and order in our universe, there are two laws I would like to highlight today. There's nature's law, which is gravity, and spiritual laws, which I've used the word intention. Both unseen, yet the results of both are proof that they exist, yes? All we have to do is look around us in the world for the proof of gravity, because things do, well, at least in my world, they sometimes slip out of my hand and they don't go up, they drop down. Laws of gravity. Sometimes we even drop down if we aren't watching our steps. Now, both are beneficial. Both are beneficial when understood, both gravity and intention. As spiritual practitioners, we must first remove any mental doubt from our minds. Because with intention, if there's any obstruction, our intention will not be as clean and clear and direct. So first, we must remove any mental doubt from our mind or any obstruction in the manifestation or outcome. And that allows the divine flow of life through all of us, through all persons, situations, and conditions. And this is what's known as the spiritual mind treatment. Ernest Holmes wrote in the Science of Mind textbook on page 166, and I quote, "To the average person, when a result is obtained by this method of work, spiritual mind treatment, it looks as though a miracle has happened, but such is not the case. It is only a miracle as everything else in life is a miracle. A definite, conscious idea has been set in motion in the subjective world, which accepts ideas at their own valuation and tends to act upon them." End quote. Those ideas which we value, cherish, cling on to, impart emotion toward, love, hate, or fear, are acted upon. It's the divine setup, and they do appear in some form or another. In other words, it has to manifest, it has to produce, it has to outpicture you, your thoughts, your emotion, your beliefs, your fears. All of it. It's the law. And so Wonder Man, as I've been deemed, because I like to wonder a lot, Wonder Man wants to know, what are you setting up to be in this life? What is it that you are setting in motion? Maybe it's time for a fresh cup of tea. And maybe it's time to nourish our inner taproot with more loving ideas. Maybe. Maybe. So your life is what your life is. Sounds kind of airy-fairy, but it is. Your life is what we have. Our life is what we have made it to be, what we have intended for it to be. And no matter how it's appearing, no matter what it looks like, be grateful. Now, why? Grateful for how it looks, so that there's an appreciation, an understanding of how it came to be. And if you want it to be some other outpicturing, it needs a new intention. So it's up to YOU. It's up to you. It's up to me to allow it to be something new. So as I start the close of my lesson this morning, I'll add a few thoughts. The first thought is by Genevieve Barrand, who wrote, and I quote, "It should be steadily borne in mind that there is an intelligence and power in all nature and all space, which is always creative and infinitely sensitive and responsive." End quote. I'll say that again. It should be steadily borne in mind that there is an intelligence and power in all nature and all space, which is always creative and infinitely sensitive and responsive, end quote. So just allow that. Just allow that. And Ernest Holmes, in the textbook, the chapter, The Power of Thought, wrote this, and I quote, "Until we awake to the fact that we are one in nature with God, we shall not find the way of life. Until we realize that our own word has the power of life, we will not see clearly. The Bible points out that man has the same power in his own life and in his own world that it claims for God. The Word was with God, and the Word was God." End quote. Just allow it. Beloveds, realize that YOU, you are the one to remove those scattered pieces and fragments of uncertainty. Tap into and accept a greater sense of your own humanity. We are called from within ourselves to be more compassionate. It's so easy to do a 180 back around to blame, shame, point the finger away from self. It's easier to do that many times, to get caught up in the world. So be mindful. Be mindful of your feelings, your words, your actions. Most of all, your thoughts. Be the cause through your words toward a greater love, more joy, and a loving kindness. And it will manifest all around you as your world. It's really not difficult. Just allow it. You're a spark of divine energy, a firework. Show life what you're worth. A bright light, a human with God-centered humanity and compassion. Just allow it. Know you're loved. Namaste. And so it is.